Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome here as we get ready for knockout qualifying for chase race number 8 of the season as we are getting set here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Already got a couple drivers off on the racetrack right now, Shaun Gallighan and Dillon Poteet. 9 drivers left in the hunt for the championship. And they'll race here at Homestead next week at Talladega, and we'll be down to our final 4 as Brandon Gonzales, Trent Dunham, Zachary Fitzwater, his teammate Jake Baskinger, Matthew Dalio, all now leaving pit road. Let's jump to the first car that got on track, and that's the rookie Shaun Gallighan in the 108. Right now, as things stand, for the 9 drivers that are in the hunt for the championship still, the top 4 would transfer to the season finale at Auto Club, and right now those 4 spots being held by the defending Hersheys Cup Series champion Anthony McCrory, Benjamin Miles, James Richardson, and Zachary Fitzwater currently is situated in the 4th position in the standings. The drivers trying to reel those 4 in this week would include Jessica Shelton, Charles Sandfer, Kyle Matthews, Chris Dodd, and I just lost who the other one was. I'll think of it. Shaun Gallighan getting around James Qualls on the high side, and 28.40.70. Not good enough to beat Dillon Poteet's current fastest lap, and now Brandon Gonzales top of the leaderboard, and they'll just keep swapping that lead around quite a bit here in the early stages of this session. Still 3 minutes to go, so plenty of time for someone to do something. As I'm talking, I'm currently going through my head of who that other chaser could be. It'd be so much easier to be able to look at a piece of paper and figure it out, but alas, I don't have anything written down. So I've got to try and remember it in my head, which isn't exactly the best source of trying to remember stuff. But anyway, I will hopefully come up with it before this session is over. Right now it is Brandon Gonzales with a 27.935. He's the only driver so far to hit the 27s. And I believe he's not too far behind this group. There he is. Running right behind Garrett Sydnor, who now has jumped into the 27s, as has Zachary Fitzwater. But Brandon Gonzales still with the fastest current lap. Saw Carson Scott back there coming onto the racetrack. Brandon Gonzales, Carson Scott, Dillon Poteet, number of drivers in this group that were in the hunt for the championship, but now have been eliminated. Leon Alvarise, you can add him to that group, is still Brandon Gonzales tops the leaderboard. And as soon as I say that, 27.899 for the 2-time winner this season, Joshua Ciculli, in the 47. Where's he at? There he is. Running behind Daniel Voyles. Right now, as far as chasers are concerned, the highest running of the chase drivers, I believe would be Jessica Shelton, and she just dropped outside the top 10 in speeds, as James Qualls top of the leaderboard. 27.866. Followed by 4 1,000ths. Oneal Balvin, then Ciculli dropped down to 4th, third rather. Leon Alvarise in 4th, and Keith Batson's now up to 5th, and now Jessica Shelton jumped up to 6th. And apparently Joshua Ciculli feels that's good enough to move on to the next round. He's heading for pit road, and Carson Scott top of the leaderboard now in the 38. Right in the middle of all of this, 27.853. That is a really good lap time, and I think that may definitely clinch him a spot into the next round of qualifying, no doubt about that. Jessica Shelton just jumped up to 2nd. So she's showing a lot of speed here, and she definitely needs to show speed and start well here at this race because of being outside of the top 4 in the point standings. Keep in mind, after Talladega next week, the final 4 go to Auto Club to battle for the championship. 5 drivers will be eliminated when the checker flag waves next week. Oneal Balvin up to 2nd. Shelton now drops to 3rd. Qualls in 4th. And Shelton top of the leaderboard, 27.842. We got 20 seconds left in the session. got Alvarise, Mongold, they're in right now. So is Ciculli, Batson, Ryan Madden, Dillon Poteet, Garrett Sydnor, and Zachary Fitzwater currently holds the final transfer spot into the next round of qualifying. "30 seconds left, and I think the session may be complete. I think Fitzwater's just barely going to move into the next round. So definitely very interesting there that two drivers who come inside the chase but outside the top 4 in the standings will be moving on to the next round, those being Shelton and Fitzwater. McCrory and Miles, they will not move on to the next round as the session is now complete.
Drivers, to your cars.
So it will officially be Shelton, Scott, Balvin, Mongold, Qualls, Alvarise, Ciculli, Batson, Madden, Poteet, Sydnor, and Fitzwater, who will move on to round 2 of qualifying. And with that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 non-chartered cars moving on to the next round, which means we have 2 or more non-chartered cars, which is pretty likely moving into the next round of qualifying from Heat 2. Then officially the drivers that would miss this race would be Seth Cole, Aaron Henderson, John Gilbert, Matthew Dallio, Stephanie Gardner, Zachary Stoltz, and Elijah Gordon. Interesting as far as the chasers are concerned, you look down here, Kyle Matthews, 21st fastest, Benjamin Miles, 19th, and Anthony McCrory, 18th. So they'll be starting mid-pack, maybe somewhere close to the rear of the field as well. That'll be not good for those drivers. But anyway, Jessica Shelton and Zachary Fitzwater have a shot at starting well in this race, which could definitely help them bounce back from the troubles of last week. Let's go around for round number 2, or heat number 2 of round 1. Alright, so as we get ready here for our second heat of the first round of qualifying, got Marty Johnson first off track, and I managed to remember the 9th driver that I couldn't think of, that other driver that was outside of the top 4. And that would have been Grayson Acevedo in the 66. So, yeah, things are looking up, from my memory at least. James Richardson coming off track behind his teammate Marty Johnson, who's already out ahead of him. Richardson comes into this race, currently in the top 4 in the point standings. He's got a shot of moving into the final 4 to battle for the championship. Think about James Richardson, and it's quite a contrast from last season. Last season he was driving the number 6 Ford for Roush Fenway Racing. If memory serves me correctly, that wasn't a full-time ride either. It was like a non-chartered go-or-go-home ride. And I remember him actually having a couple of really good runs in that 6 car, but this season came in fully chartered with Joe Gibbs Racing, and he has made the most of it. And one thing that I just see in him is like a season 1 Anthony McCrory in the fact of the consistency that Richardson has shown. Go all the way back to the first round. He was consistent, was up inside the top 5 in the point standings. Round 2, he was up, I think he was 3rd by time round 2 ended. He was 3rd in the point standings. And here this season, in this round, he starts off last week at Michigan with a great run. And finds himself currently in the top 4 in points. And this might be a pretty good lap time right here, 28.254. And right now he is top of the leaderboard over his teammate Marty Johnson. As soon as I say that, though, Tim Walsh just jumped top of the leaderboard in the Kellogg Chevrolet. It's interesting, too, when we look here at Walsh and James Richardson, both those drivers, their future's kind of unsure at the moment of whether they're returning for Season 3 or not, and if so, in what capacity or what team they'll be driving for. As Tripontakio Vernio just jumped to the top of the leaderboard, and now John Cittadino is the top driver. Where's that 83 at? There he is. Running right in the draft of Zack Flickinger, who's 3rd fastest. Cittadino with a 28.083. And I did see another chaser up in the top 10 in speeds moments ago, but he's recently fallen out, and that is Grayson Acevedo. You've got Acevedo, Chris Dodd, and James Richardson all in this group. And Chris Dodd just jumped up to, well, it was 2nd, dropped him to 3rd. And not too far ahead, there is last week's winner from Michigan. Marie Minobi picking up her first career win. And the first win of the season for Fire Ice Racing. Right now she's 7th fastest on the charts. Now drop her to 8th, as Dallas McIntosh just moved up to 7th. Right now it is Tripontakio Vernio top of the leaderboard, 27.827, our winner from M&M's Super Speedway, winning his first race in his first career Hershey's Cup Series start. Davey Johnson now jumps up to 2nd, Holden Gluba up to 3rd. Cittadino now 4th with Daniel Olson 5th, James McLeod in 6th. A lot of the go-or-go-home non-chartered cars up at the top of the leaderboard, and Minobi's coming to pit road right now, currently on the bubble spot, and now just got knocked down to 13th as Kyle Keith just jumped up there into the top 4 in 4th position. Charles Sandfer now up to 3rd. We know 2 chasers are moving on to the next round of qualifying from Heat 1, Shelton and Fitzwater. Right now, as things stand, only 1 driver, well, nope, make that 2, with Chris Dodd currently in 12th. 2 drivers would move on here from this second heat. Sandfer and Dodd currently situated in 3rd and 12th respectively. As we're looking at Davey Johnson in the 46, right now 4th fastest, en route to moving on to the next round. Let's find Chris Dodd right now. Chris Dodd didn't exactly have the best of qualifying results last week, and this week he's now 13th on the charts. He needs to get something going here in the closing stages because he just got knocked out of the top 12 by John Andrews. Still in 13th place. There's Charles Sandfer right behind him, along with John Cittadino and Zack Flickinger. Those 3 right now currently in the top 12 in speeds. Sandfer in 2nd. Oh no, Flickinger is, oh yeah, Flickinger's in 12th, and Cittadino's in 10th. Right now, Flickinger on the bubble spot. In that 01 car, still hangs on to 12th, at least that lap. Hoping that a 28.060 is enough to hang on and move on to the next round, and the session, I believe, is now complete, and I think he's made it in. So it looks like it's going to be the fastest in this session, Kyle Keith, our winner from Pocono, Johnny Gardner 2nd, Sandfer 3rd, then Tripontakio Vernio, Davey Johnson, Nathan Hudson, our Lime Rock winner, jumped up to 6th, Daniel Olson, James McLeod, Holden Gluba, John Cittadino, John Andrews, and Zack Flickinger. That'll be the 12 that move on to the next round of qualifying. And out of those 12 drivers, only one of them is a chase driver, and that is Charles Sandfer in the 03.
Drivers, to your car.
Chris Dodd, 13th fastest for him. You got to go all the way down to find James Richardson, dropped all the way to 26th. And Grayson Acevedo was way down in 30th position. He'll probably be starting near the rear of the field. Will the 66 car, our Chicagoland winner. So, as I said back in Heat 1, if more than 2 drivers move on to the next round of qualifying from this heat, then we're definitely going to have knockout qualifying in round 2. Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 go-or-go-homers moving on to the next round from this one, which means that 50% of the go-or-go-home drivers that move here on to round number 2 will not be racing in the main event. We will have a total of 14 go-or-go-home drivers in the second round of qualifying here this week. So it's going to be really crazy here in the next 5-minute session in round number 2, especially amongst those 14 drivers. We'll also have to see how Charles Sandfer, Jessica Shelton, and Zachary Fitzwater do as far as positioning themselves for this main event race. All that going to be coming up in just a moment. Take a look down through the remainder of where everybody's going to be starting and all that. Drivers that at this point will officially not make the race include Jason Haywood, Dougie Shears, last week's winner Marie Minobi, Rocco Twyman, Noah Kars, Joe Rockingham, Pichu London, Marty Johnson. They will not be starting the main event this week at Homestead-Miami. So, round 2 coming up. Don't go away. Coverage continues here in just a moment. So, we'll get ready here for our second round of qualifying. As stated before, 14 go-or-go-home drivers battling for 7 spots. Now, here's how this works. If more than 7 drivers that are go-or-go-home drivers are inside of the top 12 in speeds when this session is complete, we will go on to round 3 to determine the 7 drivers that will be racing in the main event. So keep that in mind. If we have 7 or less in the top 12 in speeds moving on to the next round of qualifying, that's when we will determine here in round 2 the 7 drivers that will battle in the main event race here this week at Homestead-Miami. And along for the ride right here is Kyle Keith, our Pocono race winner. His team, once the chase began, resorted back to not doing the charter swap with the teammates, the 8, the 1, and the 48. I was trying to remember who the other driver was for the Sega Motorsports team, since that car did not make the top 30 in the point standings. Kyle Keith here, going to try and see what he can do at Homestead-Miami. First official lap time laid down, 28.834. Now, we've seen drivers in the 27s all day. Expect a couple maybe to break the 27s here in this session. There's 24 cars on track as opposed to 32 from the 2 heats, so only an 8-car difference. I don't really see somebody not being able to hit the 27 second lap times. As Holden Gluba, Zack Flickinger, Jessica Shelton all ran 28.1s for their first laps. And right now, that puts them top 3 on the leaderboard, and a 27.969. That was very quick. Holden Gluba onto the top of the leaderboard. First driver to hit the 27s here in this second round of qualifying. And he is, keep in mind, one of the drivers that is battling to make the main event race as a non-chartered ride. Our winner from Taylor Swift Superdome. Jessica Shelton, top of the leaderboard now with a 27.954. And 27.996, the lap time just ran by Gluba, not good enough to beat Shelton for the fastest speed. Let's find Shelton. There she is, the Tampa Bay Rays Chevrolet. She was really fast in the first heat, and looking really good here in the second round of qualifying. Right now behind rookie Davey Johnson, getting some nice draft. Last lap by 27.797. See if she can beat that lap. She might be able to get some more draft off of Johnson as well as James McLeod down the front straightaway here. This could be another really fast lap time. 27.652. I think that may have just iced it in this session. I think now the battle's going to be on for second fastest. I'm not really sure anybody's going to be able to hold a candle to the lap times that Jessica Shelton's turning right now. Shelton, 1 win this season, that coming at the home track of Darlington. And right now, looking like she could be the favorite to start on the pole this week at Homestead. That time now dealing with having to deal with traffic. James McLeod and Davey Johnson. Shelton's lap time tapering off to a 27.9. But I'll tell you what, I'll be shocked if anybody can touch that 27.6. Right now, Davey Johnson in the 4th position, just ahead of Shelton. You got Johnson Cittadino. Oh my goodness, it got beaten. I don't believe it. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. John Cittadino, top of the leaderboard, 27.567. And right now, as things stand, the drivers that would transfer into the main event right now with the top 7 speeds would be Cittadino, Davey Johnson, Holden, I'm sorry, let me go with that again. Cittadino, Daniel Olson, that's who the person was I was trying to say. Oneal Balvin, Holden Gluba, Davey Johnson, Austin Mongold, and Tripontakio Vernio, right now in the 10th position, would have the final transfer spot into the main event. And Charles Sandfer just jumped up to 8th fastest. Garrett Sydnor up to 10th, Vernio up to 7th. So now it's getting swapped around. Now Mongold, I believe, would be on the outside looking in of making the main event. As Zachary Fitzwater, Jessica Shelton, Charles Sandfer, the 3 chase drivers who moved into this round, are right now in the top 12 with a chance of moving into the final round of qualifying and an opportunity of starting on the pole. Fitzwater just jumped up to 7th, and Mongold currently is situated in 12th. Which means, if my calculations are correct, I think we'd have 8 go-or-go-home drivers in the top 12 And Mongol just got dropped out. Keith Batson jumped up to 11th. Sydnor now is in the 12th position, which I think still makes it 8 go-or-go-home drivers. And I think the session may have just come to a close as well. You got Cittadino, Olson, Balvin, Gluba, Johnson, then Vernio, Batson, and Garrett Sydnor does become the 8th go-or-go-home driver to move into the top 12, which means we still are heading to round 3 to determine who's going to be making the main event. One go-or-go-home driver still needs to be eliminated. But the drivers that will move on to the next round of qualifying will include Cittadino, Shelton, Olson, Balvin, Gluba, Davey Johnson, Zachary Fitzwater, Tripontakio Vernio R, Madden, Charles Sandfer, Keith Batson, and Garrett Sydnor. All 3 of the chase drivers, Shelton, Fitzwater, and Sandfer, that transferred into the second round of qualifying will be in the final round of qualifying with a chance of starting on the pole, and all of those drivers are really right within the bubble spot of that 4th position in the point standings. Drivers that officially will not start the race that got eliminated here in this round would include Austin Mongold, Kyle Keith, Johnny Gardner, James McLeod, John Andrews, and James Qualls. So it's going to come down between Cittadino, Olson, Balvin, Gluba, Johnson, Vernio, Batson, and Sydnor as to which of those 8 drivers will get the final 7 spots in the main event. The slowest speed in next session between those 8 drivers will be going home, regardless of moving on to the final round of qualifying. We're going to have to see, too, if Shelton, Fitzwater, or Sandfer can get this race started off on the pole position, or at least in a good qualifying spot. All that coming in just a moment as you continue coverage here of knockout qualifying from Homestead-Miami Speedway. So, here we go, getting ready for our final round of qualifying here at Homestead-Miami. Should be an interesting one. A lot of different battles will be taking place here in this final 5-minute session. Of course, 3 chasers moving on to this final round of qualifying. They'd love to start on the pole. You've got 8 go-or-go-home drivers that'll be battling for the 7 available spots in this week's starting lineup. The slowest of those 8 drivers will be going home here today as Charles Sandfer, 3-time winner this season, is the first one off of pit road. I find it really ironic, too, that 2 of the chasers that moved into this final round of qualifying were Sandfer in the 03, Fitzwater in the 76. If you haven't been tuning into this season, let me just fill you in. The second round elimination race, which was at... Yeah, where was it at? I think it was at Armory Digital. No, it couldn't have. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was Armory. No, it wasn't. It was Zen Joltis. That's right. I knew it was a super speedway. At Zen Joltis, Charles Sandfer and Zachary Fitzwater were tied for the 8th position in the standings, which was the final transfer spot into the 3rd round of the chase for the championship. Now, since they were tied in points, we then had to go back and check out their average finish for that round, and both of them were tied in that. And so, therefore, both drivers moved into this 3rd round of the chase for the championship. And it just seems so ironic that the 2 of those drivers are here in the final round of Q trying to battle for the pole position. You throw Jessica Shelton into the mix as well, because Fitzwater comes into this race 4th in points. You got Shelton and Sandfer just on the outside looking in. Every position could count towards where you're going to finish in the main event races. Right now, Charles Sandfer was the first one out, but he's only 4th fastest on the charts. The fastest car right now is actually Oneal Balvin in the 04. 27.936 with the lap time he just ran. But John Cittadino, 28.246. He was the fastest in the second round of qualifying, so watch for him to maybe try and shoot to the top of the leaderboard. 27.980 now, the lap time he just ran. There he is. Let's follow him and see. He's about 5/100ths off Balvin's lap, and Balvin just ran 27.8, so now Cittadino's got some work to do. Davey Johnson just jumped up to 3rd. Garrett Sydnor up to 4th. Those drivers all trying to make the main event race here. Now let's see what Cittadino lays down at 27.954. That was faster than his last lap, but not good enough to get the pole position. Oneal Balvin, a former pole sitter this season too, let's keep that in mind. Won the pole at Talladega Superspeedway. Garrett Sydnor having to battle here with Ryan Madden and Zachary Fitzwater, and yeah, that hurt his lap time quite a bit. He was 2/100ths off of Oneal Balvin's lap the last time around, but now having to deal with traffic, and this is not going to help his lap time. His preferred line's being taken away here. He'd love to run the middle groove, but because he's side by side with Ryan Madden, he can't do that. I'd watch for maybe Zachary Fitzwater to get a pretty good lap time here. He might have something to say about a spot in the top 5, 28.096 up to 7th. Davey Johnson right now in 5th, Cittadino in 3rd. Vernio's in 7th, Gluba in 6th. And Charles Sandfer side by side right now with Oneal Balvin. Now, right now, Balvin would hold the pole position, but this isn't going to help him be able to grow his lap times at all because of the fact he was side by side with Charles Sandfer, who's currently in 9th. Daniel Olson currently situated in 11th position. And Keith Batson right now is the driver in trouble. There he is. He's in 12th. And with where he's running, he would be the last car of the go or go home drivers. He needs to beat Daniel Olson's 28.146. Olson hoping that he can't, and 28.329. He beat his own lap time, but that's still not good enough to get into the show. Garrett Sydnor starting to catch up. Sydnor top of the leaderboard, actually. He got the slipstream off the back of the 73, and he is the pole sitter right now by 6/1000ths over Oneal Balvin. Batson's got 18 seconds to put down a lap time better than a 28.1. Let's see if he gets it this time at the line. 3:11, 28.311. That's not good enough. Looks like Keith Batson, racing his way here into the 3rd round, final round of qualifying, will not be making the main event unless he's going to get counted here on this lap time, but I don't know. There's 20 seconds remaining. We'll have to see if his lap time gets counted. As we just looked right there, Garrett Sydnor, looks like he will be the pole sitter for this race. And let's see if they count Batson's lap time here. And they do not. So Keith Batson, regardless of moving on to this final round of qualifying, will not be racing in the main event. That's a tough break there for that driver out of KEB Racing Enterprises. So, Batson will not be racing. Daniel Olson just barely makes it in by 0.2 over Keith Batson. Garrett Sydnor, though, will be the start of an all-rookie front row. Sydnor and Balvin will be the front row for the race, followed by a couple of Toyotas. John Cittadino and Holden Gluba in row 2. Ryan Madden will be the highest starting chartered ride in 5th, alongside of rookie Davey Johnson. Chasers, Zachary Fitzwater and Jessica Shelton make up row 4. Tripontakio Vernio and chaser Charles Sandfer, row 5. And then starting 11th will be Daniel Olson. Keith Batson was 12th, but he will not make the race. He was 8th of 8 go-or-go-home drivers in this final round of qualifying. So that's going to do it here from Homestead-Miami Speedway. To check out what the full starting lineup looks like for this race, check down in the description below. Warning, spoilers are there. Alright, so thank you everybody for tuning in. We get ready for chase race number 8 here for this weekend at Homestead-Miami Speedway, heading into next week's elimination race at Talladega Superspeedway, where we'll determine our final 4 to battle at the season finale at Auto Club Speedway. You've been watching a production of the NCRA, offline racing at its best. We'll see you guys for the main event here at Homestead very soon. Till then, I'm out.